How you guys doing? My name is Christopher Brown, and you're now watching Sports Talk with Chris. How's everybody doing this Friday? Man, basketball is about to be back already. I mean, just 2 months ago, we're watching the Lakers win a championship, and now preseason basketball starts today. Now, make sure you tune into all major audio platforms. Sports Talk with Chris. I will be talking about, the preseason games today, Saturday, and Sunday. Breaking them down a little bit, talking about what I expect to see. But right now, in this YouTube video, we're talking about one person. We're talking about James Harden. James Harden reportedly wants out. That's what he's saying. He's listing teams that he wants to go to. He's not showing up to team practices. He's just now showing up. Has to pass 6 COVID tests. Probably won't play in their first couple preseason games. I mean, he's moving like he wants to be out of Houston. So let's talk about it. Where should James Harden be traded? Should James Harden be traded? And to answer the question, I personally don't think James Harden should go anywhere. And here's why. When I look at this Houston Rockets roster, okay, yes, they're top heavy. They don't have the bench maybe that they used to. But, I mean, they added everything that they always needed. You needed big men. You had a guy in Christian Wood, who not only can space the floor out, but he's a defender as well. So you still got a quality big man that can defend. And Christian Wood, to me, is on up and coming. He can play the 4 or the 5. Like I said, he can defend multiple positions. He can defend the rim on the offensive end. He can space it out. He can score in the post. He can knock down the mid-range. He can finish around the basket. Christian Wood was an amazing signing. Then you go and you added DeMarcus Cousins. And we know what DeMarcus Cousins is when healthy. And, let's start the notion that, okay, DeMarcus Cousins is going to be trash coming back. Let me tell you why he's going to be great. DeMarcus Cousins never relied on athleticism to be dominant in the NBA. DeMarcus Cousins was always bully ball. DeMarcus Cousins was always, I'm better than you. Let's line up. I'm going to use strength. I'm going to be dominant. I'm going to use IQ to beat you. He really always played under the basket. I mean, yes, he dunked. Yes, he got smile like dunks. But he wasn't a guy that had, to catch lobs every play. He wasn't a guy that, like I said, relied on athleticism to be dominant in the NBA. So I do think, he might not come back averaging 20 and 12 and 5 like he was doing. But, with him being able to take time and recuperate, and I understand he's coming off Achilles, ACL, quad injury. But like I said, this is a guy that athleticism wasn't his, forte. And with him losing weight, I think he's going to be in better shape. I think he's just going to be more healthier, than he was, especially when he's with Golden State. Even he's probably more healthier now than he would have been if he'd have started the season with the Lakers because he had a lot more time to rest. So I really think DeMarcus Cousins, when he's playing is going to be very, very good. So you're talking about 2 quality centers you added. Now, we all know, a big trade, a trade that, was talked about, nobody really thought it was actually going to happen, was John Wall, formerly with the Washington Wizards, being traded for Russell Westbrook. So now James Harden has a guy like John Wall on his team. Now I'm going to be breaking down that trade, on Saturday, tomorrow, and how I feel about that trade. But just to touch on it briefly, I mean, I love John Wall. When I look at John Wall, what he's going to bring to this Houston Rockets team, I mean, he's a guy that doesn't have to take 30 shots to be effective. He's a guy that, when we saw healthy, was a great defender, a better defender than Russell Westbrook, just as good, or if not a better defender than Chris Paul. This is an all-NBA defender type of guy. And I understand he's coming off some injuries also, but really break down his injuries. He got injured on his non-jumping leg. He's been playing with injuries for a year. So the fact that, he got surgery, had time to rehab, had a lot of time now because of the, extended season of COVID, really had time to rehab and work on his game. I think he's going to come back just fine. I truly believe that he's going to come back just fine. I think, you got a guy that, no, he's not the best shooter, but I think, and the stats show he's a better shooter than Russell Westbrook. Like I said, he doesn't have to take 30 shots to be effective. He's a guy that can be effective, less than 20 shots, 15, 16 shots. He's a guy that's a natural playmaker that makes everybody around him better, that can lead. I mean, John Wall, to me, people may not say he's a big upgrade for Westbrook, But you saw how dominant that duo was last year. Now you adding a guy that doesn't have to take, as many shots as Russell Westbrook. You adding a guy that, can be a better defender than Russell Westbrook. Then you add in 2 centers. Now you look at the rest of the roster, right? You still got E.G., Eric Gordon. You still got P.J. Tucker. You got Ben McLemore. You got, Kenyon Martin Jr. You got Gerald Green. One thing I think they're missing, honestly, is maybe a little bit more depth, defensive, versatility, and really a backup guard. I think they're definitely missing that backup ball handler type of guard. You got a guy like Chris Clemens in your lineup, but is he really the backup ball handler that you want? The Rockets have to ask themselves that. But but looking at this roster, though, this roster can compete. They're a top 5 roster in the West, and to be completely honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they, sign some guys now or later towards the season, like I said, like a backup guard or maybe more defense, some trades happen. I do think this is a very talented team. I don't think James Harden has to leave. I know he wants to win a championship, but this team is very, very good. This team can get it done, especially, your nucleus guys, your John Walls, your Eric Gordons, your P.J. Tuckers, your Christian Woods, your DeMarcus Cousins, your Ben McLemores, your Gerald Greens. You talking about quality guys. You got a nice 8-9-man rotation as soon as you get, who knows? Chris Clemens might be the guy that the head coach, Steven Silas has. And then speaking of Steven Silas, man, why are you doing him so dirty, James Harden? Why? Give him a chance. This is a guy that coach guards well. He was with Kemba. He was with Luka. I mean, you look at D'Antoni's system. You say you don't want to play in a system that's straight pick and roll, straight ISO all the time. Not pick and roll, but just more ISO, you dribbling the ball for 20 seconds. Steven Silas is going to come in and change all that. He's going to get the ball flowing. He's going to be able to utilize his strength, utilize his 2 guards well. He's going to demand excellence on both ends of the court. This is the head coach that you want to play for. Give him a chance, see what he has. And I think he's going to be a very, very good head coach. It sucks that, he came in think he got Russell Westbrook, James Harden. Okay, boom, you trade away, Russell Westbrook for John Wall. He knows what kind of caliber John Wall, of a player John Wall is. He think, okay, he got, John Wall and James Harden now. A lot of reports that James Harden doesn't want to play there no more. It's just like, dang, did I accept the right job? Listen, I could touch on that another time. This dude, I think, is going to be a head coach for you. But let's move on to the 4 teams that James Harden, says he wants to be traded to. I'm still standing on it. I don't think James Harden should go anywhere. I like this roster right now. But the 4 teams that, are kind of on that list to say, okay, I'll go to, you got my Philadelphia 76ers. Y'all see the banner behind me. You have the Brooklyn Nets. You have the Milwaukee Bucks. You have the Miami Heat. So, to start off with Philly, I'll be honest, I don't want them. I don't want them if that means I have to get rid of Ben Simmons. I don't want them if that means I have to get rid of, Joel Embiid. And here's why. Speaking, from a Sixers fan, but I'll throw some basketball sense in there. Everybody's always said since we had these 2 stars, they need shooting around them. You look at last year, you had no shooting. You look at the year before last, we had some shooting, not the best. You look at this year, the additions that they made. You get a Danny Green, one of the best 3-and-D guys, in the league. You get a Seth Curry, who's a top 3 shooter in the NBA. You still got Korkmaz, you got Maxey, you got Milton, you got Mike Scott, you got T. Harris, you got Isaiah Joe, you got T. Ferg. I mean, you essentially gave these 2 star players what they needed to be successful. You got them 2, and you got, a lot of good wings. You got Tobias Harris, who can be that 3rd scorer. You got Danny Green. You got, I speak on Danny Green. You got Danny Green, who's that experienced veteran that can bring leadership, that is that experienced 3-and-D type of guy, especially in the postseason. You got Seth Curry, like I said, a top 3 shooter in the NBA. And then on the bench, you got Maxey, you got Milton, you got Thibault, who's going to be the one of the best, not just 3-and-D, 2-way players in the game for years to come. You got Mike Scott, you got Dwight Howard, you got Anderson, you got Tony Bradley. Like I said, you got T. Ferg. Like, this roster is built. This roster is good. We always said, and everybody said, and you can see when they play, you surround these 2 guys with shooters and a 3rd guy that can get theirs. Oh my God, this team's going to take off. And this year, with the additions we made, adding a lot of shooters around them to give this roster a chance. You look at these other teams, you can argue Philly is. Obviously they want to win, but you can argue Philly has a longer window with their 2 main stars being under 26, with their 2 stars under contract. with the head coach with a 5-year deal, the GM with a 5-year deal, why rush it, right? Because then you got to say, okay, you got to gut your roster. You got to gut your roster for a guy like James Harden. And I love James Harden. And I'm going to bring this up a couple times. Everybody talks about James Harden as the best shooter. James Harden can shoot. All this shooting stuff. Let's pull up his stats. We look at James Harden, let's go to 2016, 2017. Actually, I'll take it back to his whole career. He only shot over 38% one time in his career. You look when he first got to Houston, 36. The next year, 37. The next year, 35. 2016, 2017, 34. 2017, 2018, 36. 2018, 2019, 36. Last year, 35. Felt the narrative that James Harden is just this ultimate great shooter. James Harden is a volume scorer. He's taken 12, 13, 10 threes in the past 3 years, shooting less than 38%. Let's not act like this dude is the ultimate scorer. Shooting less than 37%. Let's not act like this guy is not scorer. Let me take that back. He is the ultimate scorer. Let's not act like this guy is Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, even Seth Curry. Let's not act like this guy's a knockdown shooter. He has times where he goes 1 for 10, 1 for 12. He also has times where he goes 7-12, 7 for 11. But, I just want to throw the narrative out there that dude is not the Seth Currys when it comes to shooting. He's not the Currys when it comes to shooting. Then you talk about playoff stats. I mean, listen, we always say we need to see Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid what they do in the playoffs. We've seen what James Harden does in the playoffs. Look at his three-point shooting. This year, 33. Last season, 33. The year before last, 35. The year before that, 29. The year before that, 27. The year before that, 31. So it's like, let's not act like James Harden is the best three-point shooter in the world. His game sort of decreases in the playoffs. And everybody wants to talk about playoff P. Paul George. You got to hold James Harden accountable. I understand he's having high-scoring nights, but he's shooting so inefficient. I mean, do you really want 26 points on 26 shots? And so when you have a guy like James Harden, it's like, what if he plays bad? You're supposed to be the number one scorer, number one option. If you're playing bad, what's up with the rest of the team? Let's throw out the narrative that James Harden's on Kevin Durant level. I'm sorry. I've seen Kevin Durant in the playoffs be dominant for multiple series, shoot efficient for multiple series, Thunder and the, Warriors. I've seen him do that. Let's not act like James Harden's on the same level of scoring as Kevin Durant, because simply when I need you to score when it matters, you're not there. The difference between you and Paul George is you're getting the numbers, but they're very, very inefficient. So like I said, when I'm a young Philadelphia 76ers team, to me, your window is better than a lot of these other guys' window, because your young two stars are wrapped up in contracts. You got your head coach for 5 years, your GM for 5 years. Give this, team, give this roster a shot this year, see what they got. And so let's say we do it, right? The Rockets are saying, and for all teams, I'll break it down. The Rockets, are going to take their best player, their second best player, one of their best players, or they're going to take a lot of good pieces that they have, right? So when I look at the Philadelphia 76ers, am I taking him over Ben? No, because that means I'm going to probably have to give up Ben, Shake, maybe Scott, and I'm probably going to get back what? James Harden and PJ Tucker? I mean, okay, you're going to have James Harden, Seth, Danny Green, and we're probably going to throw Thibault in there too. So it's like, man, I'm losing a lot of defense. And with this young team, our identity, on the defensive end, I think needs to be dominant. We have that. So we're losing a lot of defense. You're getting James Harden. What if Joel Embiid's not healthy, right? Tobias Harris and James, here's my thing. It's not that I don't want James Harden in a Philadelphia 76 uniform, but I just don't want to give up Ben Simmons for him. Would I be mad if we did it at first? But I'm still going to understand, even through all the playoff struggles, even with him shooting 12 threes a game, 35%. I play devil's advocate to myself. I said, all the negative things about his stats. He's still a great player. He's still a top 5 player. Well, that's an argument. He's the top 10 player in the game still. He's the guy that can give you 30, can give you 10 assists. But, man, do I want to trade Ben for him? I don't know. I just personally don't know. Now, if we can keep Ben, so say we got to throw it to Tobias Harris, if it's me, I'd throw it to Tobias, Scott, Milton, T. Ferg, Forcon, some draft picks. I mean, to me, throw Tobias in there. I want to keep Thibault or Green. If we have to get rid of Thibault or Green, I want Thibault. Green can go. Give me Thibault. We gotta keep Seth. We gotta keep Seth. So it's like, can we get him without getting rid of Benner and Embiid? Yes. Throwing all that. Listen, here's the thing though. All these teams, throwing all the draft picks you got, because you're trying to win now, and you'll take going to the finals 3 times, winning 2 in the next 6 years, over not going to the finals at all, just being a team that gets kicked out of the second round. So, one thing Daryl Morey always said, if you got a 5% chance of winning the finals, throw it all in. But in this case, you got a 5% chance of winning the finals this year, and it's only going to increase. Who knows? You can make it out the East with the roster you have right now. You got everything that you need from your offense to your defense. Is James Harden worth it? So for the Sixers right now, maybe because I'm a Sixers fan, I don't think we should do it. I don't think we need to do it. I won't, be that upset if we did it, because at the end of the day, it is James Harden. But he's going to, this is coming from a Sixers fan too. I'm being objective, my best. I don't want him. I would take him, just like with this whole Jalen Hurts thing. At the end of the day, I'm an Eagles fan first. I'd rather have Wentz, but I'm not going to complain if Hurts gets the job. If Jalen Hurts gets the job done. So I'd rather have Ben Simmons. But if James Harden comes out here and he wins 2 championships in five years, 3 championships in 7 years, 3 championships in 8 years, he's going to be 40. He's already 32. And that's another thing. You talking about your 2 young stars over, under 26. James Harden is like 32. James Harden is probably not going to be on the same level in the next 5 to 7 years. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid going to be in their prime. In their prime. So that's something, also we're going to have to look at. But, like I said, if James Harden comes in here and if he wins 2 and 5, it's going to hurt getting rid of Ben, because I know the potential he has in his league. But it is, we're going to have to do what we got to do. You look at the Brooklyn Nets, the next team I'm going to talk about. You got Kyrie, you got Kevin Durant. It's already been reported that the Rockets want another star. You're not getting rid of Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is the best player out of all 3 of these guys. You cannot get rid of Kevin Durant. You get rid of Kyrie Irving. But then if you get rid of Kyrie, is it going to be a one-on-one? No, they're probably going to ask for more players. So you mean to tell me I got rid of Kyrie, probably Dinwiddie, and, Jared Allen for James Harden? Is that worth it? No. Because just like the Sixers, you have a roster that can win a championship right now. Especially with this Brooklyn Nets roster, you got Kyrie Irving, LeVert, Joe Harris, Kevin Durant, Jared Allen, Spencer Dinwiddie. You got Bruce Brown for the defensive end. You got Shaman. You got Taurean Prince. You got DeAndre Jordan. You still got Tyler Johnson, Jeff Green, Timothy Luwalu. You got a very, very good ball club. Do you want to gut it for James Harden and you also got to get rid of Kyrie Irving? No, you don't. But just like the Sixers, okay, if I can keep my 2-star players, and just like every team, you can keep your 2-star players that add James Harden, it's worth it. For every team, you add James Harden to a big 3, you're the favorite no matter what. The Sixers add James Harden with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, they're the favorite. Ben Simmons can play point guard just like James Harden can. James Harden can play off the ball. He said he wants to be, in an offense where he doesn't have to be purely ball dominant. He can come more off the ball, really focus on scoring more, or he could be a playmaker. Him and Ben Simmons pick and roll with Joel Embiid on the bench would be nasty. Ben Simmons in the dunker position with him and Joel Embiid working out would be nasty. So regardless, adding James Harden, keeping Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, I would do that in a heartbeat. Bye-bye Tobias and them. I'd do that in a heartbeat. You look at Brooklyn, you add Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and now you have James Harden. They're the favorite. Everybody's telling me they won't work. Why? I seen Kevin Durant play in a system with a system with Golden State where the ball was free flowing. Everybody touched it. I also seen Kevin Durant play in OKC where he was ball dominant. I seen Kyrie Irving play, with the Celtics where he had all those young stars. Everybody had to eat. I also seen him play with LeBron, the best playmaker in the game. So you add James Harden, who not only can be a playmaker, but he can score. He can play on and off the ball. Then you got to remember who the coach is, right? Now you got D'Antoni. He played in that, okay, balls in your hand, you do everything system. But you got Steve Nash, who he played like that too, but he understands the ball has to get to certain players. So I think he's going to be moving the ball around a lot. So if you added James Harden, can they coexist? They can more than coexist. They're the championship favorite. But is he worth giving up Dinwiddie, LeVert, Joe Harris, Jared Allen? I mean, you have enough pieces to still be a very, very good team, right? So let's say you got to get rid of all those guys. Your lineup can still be Kyrie, James Harden. You can throw Bruce Brown and Taurean Prince in there for defense. Still got KD. You're going to keep one of those centers. So it's like the Brooklyn Nets have more than enough to get the job done if they want to trade for James Harden. But in the flipping, they have more than enough to get the job done if they want to keep their roster intact. I do believe intact. They're a top 3 team in the East and a top 5 team in the NBA, period. You can still argue still a top, 3 team in the NBA in general. They don't have to do it, but like I said with the Philadelphia 76ers, you add James Harden and your big 3 with your 2 best players already established, they're dominant. And everybody's talking about Kevin Durant's coming off injury. Listen, Kevin Durant's going to be dominant. You don't need James Harden, but adding him would only be, icing on the cake with having a healthy Kevin Durant. So, with the Nets, like the Sixers, they don't need to do it. Now, with the Nets more, I don't really see them trading away Kyrie Irving for James Harden. Is that much of an upgrade? Not really. Not really at all. Ben Simmons from James Harden, I could see maybe the offensive standpoint, the argument you can try to make, but I still believe Ben Simmons is an elite defender, a top 3 defender in the NBA. James Harden is not. So right now, I'm leaning towards these teams don't have to do it. They don't need to do it. The best scenario is for them to keep their 2 stars because trading away one of their stars and extra players is not going to get it done because you look at Brooklyn. So what other pieces would they ask back? Do you want a PJ Tucker? You're probably not going to get an Eric Gordon. Do you want a McLemore? Do you want, who do you want? That's the question. So let's go to the Miami Heat, right? You look at their roster, what they have. You got Goran, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Miles Leonard, Bam Adebayo, Nunn, Hero, Iggy, Harkless, Kelly Olynyk, Bradley. Man, do you break up this roster? I don't see them trading away Bam. He's their heart and soul. He's their, unless they're high on Precious. I will say, Precious could end up, being what Bam is right now. So unless they're high on Precious Achiuwa, but then again, it's his rookie year. Bam didn't make that, transition his rookie year. So, I mean, like, what are you going to give up? What are you going to give up? And then on a, Rocket side, would they throw in a Christian Wood? Because, I mean, okay, you give him Bam. You're probably going to have to give him Dragic. You might have to throw Bradley in there. You're probably going to have to give him either Hero or Duncan Robinson. I don't know if Miami's going to make that move. I know Miami's going to want to keep at least one of Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson, seeing the fact that they are the best 2 shooters on the team. I don't know, I don't know if Miami's making this. I think it would be a nice addition. I love James Harden and Jimmy Butler together, but like I said, Bam Adebayo is the heart and soul of this team. I don't really see in them, after that extension they gave him, giving him up so easily. I don't, especially for a guy not at the same position, because now they're going to need an established big. Like I said, they could think Precious Achiuwa could be the next Bam Adebayo, but Bam Adebayo didn't make that transition his rookie year. Is Precious Achiuwa going to do that? We're going to have to wait and see. Miles Leonard, I mean, you like him. Is he defender of Bam Adebayo? No. I've been saying all year Bam Adebayo, and even going to the year, Bam Adebayo is the best center in the NBA for the simple fact that he can guard multiple positions better than any center. He can switch out on pick and roll better than any center. Do you really want to lose the defensive factor, the defensive anchor for your team? Now, just like the first 2 teams, what if you can make this trade while keeping your 2 stars and Jimmy Butler or Bam? There's no way they're giving up JB after what he did getting them to the finals, right? So say you got get rid of a Dragic, get rid of, a Duncan or Tyler Hero. You have to throw Harkless in there, Brett. You got to throw a whole bunch of players and picks in there. Do they still do it? I don't know, because this team to me is building for free agency, not making a trade right now. But that is, just like the first 2 teams, a dangerous big 3. Like, I think James Harden, wants to go on a team and be a part of a big 3. I really don't think he wants to be anywhere by himself, because then he's in the same boat he is with the Rockets. I think he wants 2 guys with him that can give him at least 20. right? Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo is a dominant big three. You still got your defensive factors, and now you got your really offensive guy that can play make. So Jimmy Butler doesn't have to be the playmaker, and that can score really better than anybody in the roster. Man, and then with being in a culture like Miami, I think his game's only going to improve. I will say, out of the big threes I named, I'm low-key leaning a little bit more towards that because they're covering the three main positions: your guard, your ball handler, your wing, your defender, and they can score, and your big man. That's why I don't like that over Phillies, but I like it, though, because just think about it. Oh, Ben Simmons, Joel, Jimmy Butler, Bam. You know, that banner's there for a reason. Shout out to Jimmy Butler, though. Always going to love you. But yeah, when I look at the Heat, do they need to do it? No. Will they do it? Who knows? I think they're building more towards free agency. But I mean, if you can get away with keeping one of Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson, if you can keep a Kendrick Nunn, maybe keep one more of your defenders, throwing some draft picks. Hey, Pat Riley makes some moves now. That is a good basketball team. But they're also a team that likes to use their depth. Same with the last team I'm going to talk about. The team that I will say, I feel like out of all these teams, this is the team that should do it more than anybody. This is the team I feel like needs to go ahead and make this happen, and it's the Milwaukee Bucks. Here's why. When you look at all the other teams, you know, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant contract, you know, new head coach. You look at, you know, Brooklyn, new head coach. Guys, you know, I talked about them, new head coach under contract. You look at Miami, two guys under contract, established head coach. You look at Philly, you got guys under contract with a new head coach. You look at Milwaukee. They're the only team that you're questioning about, and here's why. Okay, you go get a Drew Holiday, you get a Giannis, but Giannis is on a one-year deal. Bud is proven year after year after year, where's the playoff success, right? Add a James Harden to your team, make your team better. Drew Holiday, Giannis, James Harden, championship favorite. Go ahead, buy Chris Middleton, buy Dante, throwing the rest of the picks you got. You know, buy Brian Forbes, get rid of Pat, go ahead. I will say you want to keep either one of Brooke or Bobby Portis. One of them got to go. Buy to add a James Harden to this team. Of course. I mean, you got a guy, Giannis, that you don't know if Giannis, you know, is going to resign. And then speaking of Giannis, I think Giannis, to me, just his game in general, he's not a guy that's going to have the ball in his hand at the end of the, you know, shot clock. Not a guy that's going to have the ball in his hand to make the game-winning three, the game-winning jump shot. Adding Drew Holiday, you know, is a big plus. But I'm taking James Harden over Chris, taking him over Dante, taking him over DJ, taking him over Brian, taking over Pat. And the fact that I believe they don't go to the finals this year, they're blowing your team up. You know, Giannis might leave. You're gonna have to get rid of your head coach. Put together the best team. You talking about you putting everything in to win right now. You have a very good roster. Drew Holiday, Dante, Chris Middleton, Giannis, Brooke. You add James Harden to this team. James Harden, Drew Holiday, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Drew Holiday and James Harden are the best backcourt in the game. You know, by far. The defense and combo guard ability of Drew Holiday, we know what James Harden brings. Yes, I knocked him, but I still acknowledge the fact that he is All-NBA, that he's a top 10 player, that he is one of the most dominant scorers this league has ever seen, even though he has his efficiency slumps. We had Giannis. To me, Giannis is more of a Robin than a Batman right now until his game evolves. That's no knock on him. I'm not saying he's a Robin where, you know, can't carry a team, but I mean, he needs help. He's still going to be dominant in his role. He needs help, especially in that postseason where defenses start to change. Now, just to play devil's advocate in that, you can say, well, James Harden never had postseason success. James Harden never played with a guy like Giannis that can score like Giannis. He never, you know, the defense, you know, and the combo guard ability of Drew Holiday is great. But yeah, those are the four teams, right? You decide. Don't want to go too long into this. I can if you want to. Just comment below. I can break some more of this down. Sixers, Nets, Bucks, Heat. Comment which team, you know, he should go to. Personally, I think the Bucks should do it more than the Sixers, more than the Nets, more than the Heat. I think, you know, if you look at what team has the most, you know, players, you know, trade equity to do it, it's probably the Nets. if you don't have to trade away your top two guys. If you have to trade away your top two guys, the Sixers, if anybody are more likely to do it. But man, wow. James Harden wants out of Houston. I'm still standing on that he should stay. But if he wants out, these are four teams that are in the East. There are four teams that are in the East. These are arguably the top, in my opinion, these are the top four teams in the East. He wants to get out of the West. He wants to win a championship. Which team is going to make it happen? Comment below. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for supporting. Make sure you check me out on all audio platforms. I'm talking about Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts with Sports Talk with Chris. Make sure you check out all my social medias. Instagram, Twitter, SportsW_Chris, SportsW_Chris. Make sure you check out my Facebook, Sports Talk with Chris. Man, what an episode. Just love talking to sports, man. And this James Harden thing. I talked about the four teams. You could say none of them need him. Everybody would want him. But at what cost? Just to end it out, the final question is what cost? So think about that. And like I said, comment below. Which team should make a trade for James Harden? Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for the support. And stay tuned. Peace out. See you next time.